Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, I like to spend a little bit of time answering questions from people about their job search, because to me, job hunting doesn't have to be quite as hard, difficult, painful, or take as long as it does. Job search is a game, and most of you don't know the rules to the game, and that's where I come in. I worked in search for more than, a heck of a long time and filled a lot of positions in the US and Canada. And now people hire me for no BS job search coaching and career advice globally because I make the process of finding work and succeeding at it much easier. So before, I'll just simply say, if you've got a question for me today, I want to invite you to put it into chat so I can answer it live. So I'm going to start in a couple of minutes, but I also want to encourage you all, whenever you watch this, no matter how far in the future it is, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. Your network is going to wind up being a lot larger than it is today. I was member 7653 on LinkedIn, so my network will tend to be a little larger than most people's, and my first levels will become your second levels and help you with your search. So again, that's linkedin.com, /IN/thebiggamehunter. Before I do my job search tip, I just wanted to point out that I believe it's Friday at midnight. So it's that period between Friday and Saturday. As my sale on coaching, Insider 30 and Insider 60 services comes to an end. And it's going to be 10% off on either of those two options. So if you go to jobsearch.community and click on Become an Insider, choose either Insider 30 or Insider 60. It's 30 minutes of coaching, 60 minutes of coaching. Either way is fine. And at checkout, enter Insider 10 for 10% off. Now, my goal here is helping people. Folks need help. That's very obvious. Last month, I ran a promotion where people were able to get my insider service for free. This month, through the end of Valentine's Day, we're doing Insider 10% off of 30 minutes of coaching from me, 60 minutes of coaching, and you get access to all the content at jobsearch.community, which you'll see on the homepage. There's some free stuff there. And in addition, there's currently 17 pieces of content listed on the site that you'll be able to get access to as well. So again, that's jobsearch.community. Now, let me just simply say, I always like to start these shows off with a tip that will help you as you think about your job search. And this one comes out of the Super Bowl, and it's Saquon Barkley. The Saquon Barkley story, I still am a Giants fan. And going into this game, I hate Philadelphia, but I love Saquon. This isn't about what he's chosen to do per se, but how he handled himself. Now, the way football is set up, you're drafted by a team and you play for that team for a certain number of years, and then you can become a free agent. And I'm obviously simplifying the story, but he had preferred staying with the Giants, but he wanted to be paid fairly. And he judged that the Giants were willing to pay him not enough. So he opened himself up for other services and went to work for Philadelphia, where he had a great season. One of only a few running backs to rush for 2,000 yards. And in contrast with the Giants last season, who had a bad offensive line and no real quarterback to speak of, he didn't even rush for 1,000 yards or catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. The point I want to make to you is that sometimes, no matter how good you are, you have to get into a system or a place that really respects your talent and skills and, of course, can pay you well for it. He would have preferred staying a Giant. He kept sending his agent back to the Giants, talking about encouraging them to come up with more money. As he said in interviews subsequently, he said, my thing was always the Ring of Honor, and when which is this area around Giants Stadium where they honor former great Giant players. And he always thought of seeing his name up there. But now he was going to leave. He was going to go to a rival and perform for them. It was hard, but he chose to do it. And in doing so, got paid what he was worth, had a great season, and helped win a Super Bowl. Again, the point I want to make to you is you could be the best performer in a bad place. And sometimes you just got to get out and join an environment where you can win. That's what Barkley chose to do. And as such, there's a lesson for all of us that sometimes we tolerate things that we don't need to tolerate. And although, it was not his first choice, he had hoped staying with the Giants, that wasn't the way it was. And he went to a place where he felt like he could succeed. And he did. Moral of the story is if you're in a mediocre place and you think you're better than your environment and you're not being paid fairly, get out. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. If you're not familiar with that reference, it's from Monopoly, the game. So a lesson for, I think, everyone about how to handle your business, the business of your career. So again, if you've got a question for me, put it into chat so I can answer it live. And I also received a number of questions in advance of the show from people that I'm going to use to fill in. So first question I received from someone is, I just did an interview for a job, but a couple of hours after the interview, the recruiter asked me, if I get hired, when can I start? Does that mean something good? Maybe. And I have to say maybe because there's a lot I don't know here. So, one possibility is they need someone who could start next week. Can you start next week? They want to know if there are any unreasonable expectations you have about a start date. For example, the person who's going to be going on vacation for 2 weeks after they give notice and they need them fairly quickly, and that would delay the start date for a period of time. For them, just like for you, surprises are rarely good. And thus, they're trying to find out when you might be able to start as a way of avoiding any surprises. They wouldn't ask if you were not under consideration, but it doesn't mean that they've chosen you yet. They may have, and they're trying to ensure that there are no other problems. But, again, there's no guarantee that you're being hired here. So let's not get ahead of our skis here and wind up thinking, I got the job. Doesn't necessarily mean that. Here's another question I received. Is it a good idea to say that the current company is not doing well financially to an interviewer, and that's why you want to leave? Yes. It's perfectly fine to say that if it's true. If it isn't true, they'll find that out pretty quickly. But the idea is, let's give it a little bit more texture here. I like working for this firm. It's a great organization. I've learned a lot. My manager's terrific. But the fact of the matter is, they're having financial problems. It's in the press these days. Everyone knows that they're having problems. And if they're going to survive, they're going to wind up cutting back on people and more. And it won't be the same place that I've really enjoyed working at. I'm looking for an organization where I can learn and grow and get ahead and deliver great services, but I don't think it's going to be here. So the long and the short of it is, yes, it's okay to say that, but give it a little bit more to the story so that people fully understand what's going on. I don't know how this question got through, but is management by walking around the best kind of management? I'll just simply say it's a good form of management Is it the best? There's so many different forms of management. I don't want to take a long period of time answering this. I'll just simply say it is one of many good forms of management that will help you observe and see what's going on in your organization and with your people. That's as much as I'll say. Okay. Here's another question. What's the process of using the search bar on LinkedIn to find specific people by name or job title for job searching or networking purposes? So when I work with this service, I can't share my screen, but I'll just simply say, you can search for people by name. Ideally, if you have a paid account, you have access to more filters. So you might search for a person by name and then a geographic area, maybe a company name as well. You have access to many more filters, but the process is enter the name into the search bar on LinkedIn. Then from there, narrow by geography, narrow by title, narrow by company. You have lots of different options for how to narrow the search down that will help you find the version of, I'll use my name here, Jeff Altman, that you're trying to find. I know I had a client that I did work with for a number of years and got an invitation to their Christmas party. It was great. I walked in the door and it didn't take long for me to figure out that they wanted another Jeff Altman, not me. And there were two people with the same name, and I was the one that they invited, and they wanted to hire a financial guy by that name. And I'll just leave the story at that. So try and narrow your search down to find the specific person you're trying to find. Once you've located all the Jeff Altmans that might exist on LinkedIn, because I know there's a lot. And thus, it's really not difficult. But if you don't have a paid account, another way that you can do this is use Google. It's not going to be perfect because people have to have given permission for LinkedIn to allow your profile to be shared in other places, Google, and thus it may not have everyone, but it will have a lot of people. So what's the process? Enter name in search bar. Then once all the answers come up, enter location, enter company name. Look for ways to narrow down the solution, the answer, so that you find the person that you're looking for. Before I go any further, let me just simply remind you, if you've got a question for me, put it into chat so I can answer it live. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. Mention that you saw this. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. Once we're connected, my network will become part of your network. And again, 10% off at jobsearch.community for Insider or Insider 30. Insider 30 or Insider 60 memberships, which include all the content available on the site, as well as 30 minutes of coaching from me or 60 minutes of coaching from me. The 60 can be done as 2 30-minute sessions. Enter Insider 10 at checkout to get the discount. Okay. There is more that I've received. Oh, let's see now. Someone sent the question in. I'm interviewing for director level roles and have been given the feedback that I need to work on my executive presence. How can I project more executive presence during interviews? I don't know if you're male or female. I don't know, how you present yourself. So normally I would talk about a couple of different things in terms of wardrobe as being one of the things. Don't know how you dress for interviews. But executive presence is really about confidence. How you present confidently and assertively, in an interview that demonstrates that you can inspire, doesn't demonstrate, but that you inspire confidence that you can handle the role. So how do you do this? Your speech, your wardrobe, how you present your ideas cogently, and If English is not your first language, I always encourage people to go to Toastmasters, which is a supportive environment where you can practice oral communications so you can become more confident in a place where they're not going to judge you harshly and they're going to try and help you improve your oral communications. But those are a couple of basic ways to improve your executive presence so that you inspire confidence in people. Because presence isn't about your knowledge. It's about all the other variables other than knowledge that allow them to trust you. And right now, they don't, this one firm that you interviewed with or firms that you're interviewing with don't really get that from you. So remember, they're trying to find someone that they can trust in a significant role. How can you project more executive presence? Your wardrobe, your speech, the certainty with which you present, your preparation for the interview, practicing your answers to predictable interview questions. Hire me to coach you. You can do a 30-minute session with me. You'll get access to my interview coaching course as well, called the Ultimate Job Interview Framework, and a lot more. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on the the interview preparation stuff. I've got a video course that covers that. We can focus on the nuanced stuff rather than the basics, so that in this way you're able to get better results. I'll get a chance to see you because I do my coaching over Zoom, and I'll record the session afterwards, send it to you with some notes that I'll have transcribed from the session, and much more. So those are a couple of ways to work on it, but the truth is it's hard to do it on your own. Contact me for coaching. Again, Insider 30 or Insider 60 at jobsearch.community. At checkout, 10% off by entering code Insider10. That's the number 10. And hope to see you in my schedule soon. Let's continue on. And by the way, if you have more questions for me about this, put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer it. Okay. Here's a question from someone. Can I get a job in tech while, emphasis added for context, can I get a job in tech while learning program in a super intense learning schedule, i.e. 3 languages in 4 weeks? Yeah, you can, but why don't you finish your course? Why don't you get through that? It sounds like you're involved in a boot camp, and that they're going to push you really hard for a few weeks so that you learn 3 languages. Make sure that you're learning languages that are relevant, that the market is looking for people in, rather than just 3 arbitrary languages that they judge are going to be beneficial. Look at what the market is offering. See if what their curriculum is actually of value. And yes, you can do it. You can find a position after coming out of a boot camp, and I'm making an assumption that it's a boot camp here. And you can find that job while currently interviewing, and good luck. Seriously, good luck. The bad reference scenario. My old job is giving me bad references. I quit there almost 2 months ago. I never had an issue finding a new job. No one will hire me. Is this legal? Now, I did a little work on this one, and I found a great answer on Quora. That's Quora. So I want to give Quora credit and acknowledge this particular user's answers, because I thought it was very good. They're in the UK because they spell labor with a U, Labour. But here was their answer, which I thought was very solid. Have somebody call your former employer, ideally someone well-versed in labor law, which may not be possible, and have them pose as somebody asking for a reference. Record the conversation. Even if what your former employer is saying is technically true, it may still be libel or slander depending upon what they're saying or how they're saying it. Have them ask very general questions like, what can you tell me about Jeff Altman? What are they like as a person? If they're smart, they'll stick only to the simplest facts and won't offer any information they weren't asked for. This is assuming they do give that they're negative about you or your performance. If they're intentionally painting you in a bad light, then reveal your trap. Tell them they've been recorded and threaten to take them to court if they persist. Actually, taking them to court, or if you've had a sufficient enough loss of earnings. HR staff, as opposed to management who cover roles including hiring as well as other responsibilities, are trained to keep only to the facts, not to add any additional commentary that could add bias. Similarly, any prospective employer with a dedicated HR staff or enough experience as a hiring manager would not wind up giving particularly bad references or go into specifics. For example, would you ever consider rehiring Jeff Altman? And if not, would you ever consider hiring Jeff Altman for another role in your company with different responsibilities? If the answer is no to the first but not the second, then you may simply not get along. They may not get along with you personally, but don't mind having you in the company. Or they may think you're decent enough, but you're not just suitable for the role you previously held for them. For example, you have plenty of experience with that industry, but not enough specialist training for that role. If the answer is no to both, then suggest that you might be a liability and your former employer said nothing that could even be construed as libelous. So I thought that was a very thorough answer. I hope this is just a misreading of the situation that you're involved with. And if not, I think this is terrific advice for how to proceed further so that you can resolve this issue in your own mind and wind up landing in another role. Okay. So let me copy this question into chat. There we go. I have 11 years of experience as a Java full stack developer. After a career break of 6 years, let's pause and acknowledge 6 years, I want to restart my career. Can you provide suggestions or tips how to proceed with the interview preparation? So the first thing is I would encourage you to go back and review what you did and how you went about doing it so that you can have confidence speaking about your previous work. Interview preparation may involve 6 years you've been out. And this is, if you're a male, we can't deal with maternity here. So you can say, why you've been out for 6 years and be prepared to come up with an answer. After all, it could be a medical issue. You give me no indication of what it is. It could be maternity. You haven't given me any indication of what the reason's been that you've had a 6-year career break. It could be because you were in a psych facility for all I know. Whatever it is, you have to be prepared to explain the 6 years and be able to demonstrate that you've still maintained your expertise around full stack development in such a way that you inspire confidence in them that you can deal with their problems. Because remember, they're not hiring you because they're nice people. They're hiring you because they have a problem and they are hoping you can help them solve it. So that's what I would suggest going forward about how to prepare for this interview. Okay. I'm going to do this question, probably one more, maybe two. Let's go to the next one, okay? What does it mean when a company says they have no current openings available and they'll keep your resume on file, but then invite you to come in for an interview anyway? I'm going to change the language of this, but then invite you to come in for an interview. I'm taking out the word anyway. Now, it may mean that someone's given notice and they need to replace them. That's certainly a possibility. Like it's never happened before. Of course it's happened before. It could be that you have someone who knows you within the firm who's advocated for you and they feel obligated to speak to you with an eye toward another role opening up, or they just feel obligated to speak to you because someone gave you a strong testimonial. So what it means is you've been asked out on a date and they want to get an idea of what your capabilities are. They want to get to know you, your knowledge, find out more about you. So it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've gotten a job. It does mean that you've gotten an interview. And then from there, your job is to perform. If you perform poorly, that's always makes it easier for them because you're going to be rejected. It's that simple. But the long and the short of it is make them fall in love with you and give them a pleasant problem. Okay? This is going to be the last question unless someone pops a question in the chat. Okay. Let's see now. Why don't companies do the technical interview first and then save the behavioral interview for later? Well, the behavioral interview is often started with HR. They are screeners. They're looking for reasons to say no to someone because they have no authority to say yes. They can't hire you. Your future manager is the one who decides whether or not to hire you, but they have the authority to say no and to reject you. So that's where the behavioral interviews come into play. What I'll say to you is their job is to look for obvious reasons to say no, because most of them don't have the in-depth knowledge of your expertise to say yes. They can ask you for some generic questions. They can ask you some generic questions, but the long and the short of it is they don't know at a deep level what it is you really do. So, like I said, the reason it's done this way is HR does the screening to get rid of the obvious riffraff, for lack of a better term, obvious people that they would reject. And then from there, you go on to a hiring manager or a member of the team who's there can evaluate you for your knowledge in depth. And then from there, you get more behavioral questions in the interview with the technical people or the people in the business. You get more business-related questions as you progress in the organization for interviews. And that's why it's done. Really, that's why it's done. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jeff Altman. Visit my website, which is jobsearch.community. We've got video courses, books, and guides to help you with your search. There's some free stuff on the homepage. Sign up for the newsletter as well. It comes out once a week on Wednesdays usually. And, get to know me. Get to know me. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.